Nigel Farage has slammed Labour's controversial proposal to delay local council elections scheduled for May, branding it a denial of democracy and accusing Sir Keir Starmer of orchestrating an act of pure cowardice. The outspoken Reform UK leader has argued that Labour, in conjunction with some self-serving Conservative councils, is attempting to stifle his party's growing momentum, which threatens to shake up local politics across the country. Farage's criticism was particularly scathing as he accused Starmer's party of undermining the democratic process to push through convoluted local government reforms.
Over a dozen county councils, I think now 16, have asked to postpone local elections this year. Why do you think that is?
It's an act of pure cowardice. It's a denial of democracy. The whole thing's a disgrace. These are Conservative councils latching on to Labour's radical plans for local government, and they know they're going to really get a tough time for reform, and they want to keep their jobs, they want to keep their money, and they're saying it might take up until 2028 for these changes to come. Well, that's almost the next full term. We've got momentum, but the whole of British politics is in a state of change, the likes of which I've not seen in my lifetime.
And with Labour voting against the Grooming gang inquiry this week, do you think they're perhaps hiding something? I know you posted on X saying, what are they hiding?
Oh, I think what they're hiding, well, firstly, that their idea of mass open immigration and multiculturalism clearly doesn't always work. But I also think that nearly every council area in which these abuses happen were Labour-run areas. Were these attacks on girls racially motivated? I don't know the answer to that. There has to be a public inquiry, but not one on child sexual abuse on a broad scale. This has got to be a rifle shot, not a shotgun, into this specific issue, an area of grooming gangs. And very interesting, 76% of the country want this inquiry. And I've said that if the government don't do it, we at Reform UK will raise the money and we will do it. And I think the threat of that will push Starmer into doing it.
The contentious Labour plan, announced in December, would merge smaller district councils with larger county councils, creating sprawling single authorities under the guise of devolving power from Westminster. Critics argue it's a centralising power grab masked as devolution. According to reports, 14 of the 21 county councils due to hold elections are considering asking for postponements, claiming they need time to implement Labour's reform. Farage, however, sees a more sinister motive. This is a disgrace, he fumed too. It's an act of pure cowardice from a political establishment terrified of losing its grip. These Conservative councils are clinging to Labour's radical, undemocratic plans to save their own skins. They know they'll face a battering from reform, so they're trying to delay the inevitable. Farage's blistering critique comes amid reports that some councils are holding emergency meetings to weigh their options, with a final decision resting in the hands of government ministers. While the official line from the government assures elections will proceed as planned, Farage remains unconvinced, warning of growing public anger at a political class increasingly out of touch with voters. Labour's devolution plan, touted as a transformative shift in local governance, has been met with mounting opposition. Farage dismissed the proposals as a smokescreen for jobs. For the beau whiz politics, warning it could take until 2028 to fully implement. A timeline he described as laughable. He added, "British politics is in a state of change like I've never seen in my lifetime, and these delays are a desperate attempt to stall that change." While Starmer positions himself as a champion of reform, Farage's fiery rhetoric underscores a growing frustration with what many see as an elite class willing to bend the rules to maintain their grip on power. Whether or not the elections go ahead, it's clear that Farage intends to capitalize on the mounting discontent.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What actions will the Home Secretary be taking following the news that 8 UK companies and organisations have been deemed terror groups by the United Arab Emirates?
The UAE is an important international partner for the UK, but of course other countries have their own rules on designation, and it would not be appropriate for the government to comment on their processes. What I can say to the honourable member is that extremism has no place in our society, and that we work very closely with law enforcement, local communities and our international partners to tackle groups and any individuals who seek to sow division and hatred.
The Home Secretary faces mounting pressure to clarify the government's response after the UAE designated 8 UK-based companies and organizations as terror groups. While the UK has long prided itself on a robust stance against extremism, this incident underscores the complexities of international counterterrorism efforts, where differing legal frameworks, intelligence, sharing practices, and designation criteria often clash. The UAE's move, likely based on its own assessments of threats to its national security, raises urgent questions about whether these entities pose a direct or indirect risk to the UK or its allies. Diplomatically, the UK is walking a tightrope. It must balance the need to uphold its independent legal and judicial processes, where evidence and due process are paramount, with the imperative to maintain strong ties to a key Gulf ally. The UAE is not only a major trading partner, but also an important collaborator in intelligence and security matters. Failing to act on credible allegations could strain this partnership, yet blindly mirroring designations without rigorous scrutiny could spark domestic backlash and accusations of compromising British legal standards. This decision also holds significant domestic ramifications. Several of these organizations may have strong ties to UK communities, potentially sparking controversy and amplifying divisions. For now, all eyes are on the Home Office to determine the government's next move, whether to launch its own investigation, request further evidence from the UAE, or issue a public rebuttal. Whatever the outcome, the case is a stark reminder of the delicate balance between global alliances and safeguarding the principles of justice at home.
I feel disgusted by what the Honourable Gentleman has just said. Can you imagine if you're a victim or survivor listening to that? I'm sure his intent is to get to the truth and get justice. But the language, please think about who hears our words.
Labour is facing fresh internal dissent as MPs for Rochdale and Rotherham break ranks with Keir Starmer, demanding a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandals that have devastated their constituencies and shaken public trust in authorities. The call for a comprehensive investigation highlights the growing unease within the party over its handling of this deeply sensitive issue, with critics arguing that more robust action is needed to address the systemic failures exposed by these cases. For Starmer, the timing couldn't be more precarious. As he seeks to solidify his leadership and present Labour as the party of competence and accountability ahead of the next general election, this internal revolt threatens to derail that narrative. It underscores a wider tension between Labour's need to acknowledge past failures and its efforts to move forward, particularly in constituencies like Rochdale and Rotherham, where anger over perceived political inaction remains palpable. The demand for a national inquiry carries both promise and peril. Supporters see it as a necessary step to rebuild public confidence and deliver long overdue justice for victims. However, critics warn it risks reopening old wounds and exposing Labour to accusations of exploiting the issue for political gain. Meanwhile, the Conservatives will be watching closely, ready to frame any misstep as evidence of Labour's inability to confront difficult truths. This moment presents Starmer with a defining challenge, balancing the party's moral obligation to pursue justice with the political realities of maintaining party unity and electoral viability. How he responds could shape not only Labour's standing in key battlegrounds, but also the public's trust in its ability to lead on the most pressing and sensitive issues of our time. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more. Don't miss out. Join our Telegram community through the link below.